Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, to episode number 169 of Gaming the Industry. My name is Shank, and I am not alone. I am joined by Bradford Kinsan.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. So today it was seemingly uncovered again why we wave to each other in every video game we ever play
Yep.
because of my reaction to one of your tweets earlier.
Yep.
But speaking of reaction to tweets, you guys, Shank posed a pop quiz to Brian. By the way, he's having audio issues, so he'll join us as soon as he gets those worked out. But his Japanese is not improving because of Shank's tutelage.
It is.
It's not. So you posed the question at Silent Fury 007, pop quiz, Brian. The at Silent Fury 007 and Brian was redundant, but that's fine. What's the possessive contraction of furidu? Which Brian responded with foihiuru.
No, you didn't put the urgency in there.
I never put urgency in this because it's not urgent. You said
Capitalized.
close, Brian. Real. So how would one say that?
What Brian said?
Yeah, what Brian said.
Well, so Brian was trying to say Fioridu, but he misspelled it.
Okay. So you said close, Brian, real close. It's a tricky one. It's actually fio. That's it. It trails off at the end, but that's the subtlety of it. Very tricky. To which he responded with, "Ah, damn. What's new, huh?" All right. Well, also, this. It's a picture. I believe this is from Reddit, right?
Yep.
So, it's basically a picture that says, "My team's Genji has not learned after suicide diving 10 times how to wait for the team." I feel like that's all of us when we have a Genji on our team that doesn't understand how teamwork works.
Yep. Or like that one time we had that Reinhardt who just kept running in front of you.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, bad Reinhardts. Speaking of bad things, public service announcement, you guys. We'll be announcing TodgerCon details tomorrow. Stay tuned. We're looking to get that guy over there, that guy over there,
Yep.
as a special guest. Remember, guys, with the Cytex X52 Pro 5 sticks, you'll have so much control. You'll have control over your canning. Quick Windows 10 update.
Da, 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 da.
I have 3 extra closed beta keys for the Magic the Gathering Arena closed beta. So if you would like to draw Forest at the frequency that Shank was that one time, hit me up. Reminder, guys, construction for Shank's prestigious Cyrillic Skudu for the Gifted is progressing nicely. Regarding Shank's prestigious Japanese Skudu, location for tonight's lecture on undercurrents, that comma after on is unnecessary, undercurrents of feudal Japanese cloth folding subculture and its impact on broader imperial conquest, has been moved to the Johnson Building. Please plan accordingly. Please tell me the Johnson Building is shaped the way I would assume the Johnson Building is shaped at your prestigious Japanese Skudu.
Of course.
Okay, awesome. It's fantastic. We're going to talk a bit about what we're playing this week. We're going to talk about Yelping, a discussion on ethics in games journalism. No, we're not. We're also going to be talking about farming Overwatch endorsements. Does it really matter? Remember that time you got accused of farming endorsements? And it was 100% true?
100%.
That was fantastic. It was basically like a chef's kiss. So good. So Shank.
What that guy's realization was dawning on him, it was the same feeling that I had like 3 years ago when I realized that you and Brian were living vicariously through me, and I was like, "Are you guys living vicariously through my bachelorhood?" And your exact response was, "Every day, sir."
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah.
It was that level of realization that I equate to what that guy must have felt when he asked if we were farming endorsements.
We totally were. I mean, you guys totally were. I wasn't. I was just like, yeah, if people endorse me, cool. If they don't, yeah, I had fun anyway. Speaking of fun things, Shank played a game for GameSpace called Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. How was it?
This is the one game that I have been secretly and not so secretly looking forward to being ported and asking to be ported from the Wii U to the Switch. Now, a lot of people, well, okay, I'm not going to say a lot of people. people that I have seen lambasting these ports, I don't necessarily think they understand why it's a good thing, and I think it's because, you know, the Wii U honestly was not a it was a flop. Let's just be straightforward. It was a flop. The Wii U was a flop.
Was a
There were
bad
games
console.
on there though that were genuinely fun, good games. And unfortunately, because the product didn't sell, the console really didn't sell, those games didn't really get their uh, time of day, and they didn't really get an audience. Now, however, the Nintendo Switch is a vastly more popular machine. I mean, it is an incredibly popular console, and
But like tenfold.
by literally tenfold. It's I mean, it's a great console. It's my favorite console, and it's selling incredibly well. And it has a steady trickle of content, like quality games, every single month. And Nintendo has made sure strategically to give gamers a reason almost every single month to come back and play their Switch, even if it's one game.
Right.
That's still something that has your attention on the Switch for that month. And I think strategically it's great. And to take advantage of this now, because the install base is there, we're seeing these games from the Wii U being ported to the much more popular Switch and being given basically a second life. And this is one such game, because this is a quality Wii U title that didn't really get the audience that it perhaps should have, but now has that chance on the vastly more powerful Switch. And I kind of touch on that in the review. But I played this. I was looking forward to this for a long time. But by just full disclosure, this is a copy that I purchased. I was not given a code for this. But I basically told Bill, I'm like, listen, I'm happy to do a review of this because, I mean, I'm more than happy to.
Did you disclose it in the review?
I had that disclosure in here in the draft, but I think it must have been removed. Like Bill must have removed it or something. It's in my Google Doc and everything. But yeah.
I don't think that disclosure really matters, because it's just not like you've been given a game for free. You have more of a, at least in my mind, you have more of a reason to look at it more critically if you paid for it with real money, as opposed to be giving something for free.
Yeah. Well, of course, as a discerning journalist, one must always look at it through that lens, but we know it's not the case.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
Yeah. So this was a copy that I bought, and I played through it, and it's like the subtitle says, it's pure boundless joy. I mean, the game is unbelievable. It's just full of joy. I had just a huge smile on my face the entire time I was playing it. It's a really, really good game. Mechanically, it's incredibly solid. It performs basically at a locked 60 frames per second. And this is one of the games I kind of talk about where this is an excellent example where Nintendo's kind of visual presentation is timeless, because it's 4 years old, but it still looks brilliant.
Yeah.
Visually, it's brilliant. And it's another one of those games, a first-party game that is a 60 frames per second title. And Nintendo is not a company that touts, specs and resolution and frame rate. They just deliver solid game after solid game. And I can honestly say I have more first-party 60 frames per second games on my Switch than any of the other consoles combined. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. Especially, I think it's really more significant that the other two consoles tout their horsepower. The Switch doesn't, yet somehow offers better performing games. So, I mean, I honestly think that says something.
Well, they tout their horsepower, but neither one of them really touts it as performance now. It's usually touted as visual fidelity, which you have to admit, Captain Toad doesn't come close to Horizon Zero Dawn visually.
It doesn't, but I think that speaks to it, is that, like, Nintendo has this quiet confidence. Like, when you're confident, you just don't say stuff.
Well, they do whatever they want. They beat to their own drum, and people buy their stuff as a result. I mean, it's people buy it purely from nostalgia, purely because it's different. And in this generation, it's because it's good.
Yeah, and honestly, I do think there is some sort of intangible factor that's not really an objective, like, metric by which we can measure, but to me at least, it does lend credence to a product when something like horsepower is not touted, yet the product is incredibly solid and fun and just really smooth.
I don't disagree.
So I think this is one of these games where it's just a really, really fun game to play. And there's a lot of this. Keep in mind, this was developed on a console where touch was the primary. That when touch was like the huge thing, and because it was developed on the Wii U gamepad, they got around it in some clever ways on the Switch, but the standard control scheme, and I'm using quotes and standard in quotes because like what you would consider standard, you know, controller in hand, lounging on couch, that I feel feels a bit compromised, and it's very similar. It feels similar to Mario Odyssey, where if you didn't use motion controls, you were not getting the full range of motion, and it's sort of similar, but not to the same extent with Captain Toad, because it's much more casual game, and there's not a bunch of combos that you could do with the motion controls like with Mario Odyssey. But still, I note it in the review, and it's still a compromise that I think should be brought up, because a primary method of input is, I feel, compromised and feels a bit overlooked. Take that for what you will, but for me, it's kind of a big deal. It's something to point out, at least if you're gonna plop down $40. So yeah, in my opinion, this is a fantastic game. I think you should buy it if you have a Wii. If you missed the Wii U version, or even if you played the Wii U version and want to revisit it. It's fantastic on the Switch. It's great. Go read the review. It's on GameSpace. It's a great little game.
What else have you been playing?
The other game that I've been playing is Octopath Traveler, which this is right up there with biggest surprise for me. It's in the running for biggest surprise for the Tawdry Awards 2018, along with Monster Hunter. I quite famously don't like pixel games, like pixel style games. This game I feel like is genuinely different, because there's something about the art style that it's marrying. I mean, and Square Enix calls this HD 2D, where it's using, this game's built on Unreal Engine 4, but it's using basically 3D models with pixel textures overlaid on top of it.
Yeah, most games that are like this do that, actually. A lot of 2D games that I play are actually fully rendered 3D models that are presented in a 2.5D space.
Well, it's not even 2.5D. This is fully 3D space, and then the characters themselves, these are the actual 2D sprites. But it's this is probably a better image of it. But this is, I mean, I'm really, there's something about the way that they're presenting it, and I think it's because it's not just a kind of a vanilla sort of texture, you know, the pixel textures on it. They're using elements of Unreal Engine 4 and letting it kind of flex its muscles where it needs to. And perfect examples of this are, you can see there's a awesome tilt shift depth of field that adds almost like a diorama like quality to the level, and there's also really nice water, like surprisingly good water shaders in this game that add like a touch of modernity to this kind of older. So I mean, this game to me feels like it's marrying modern graphical techniques with the nostalgic pixel art of the bygone years or whatever. And
a lot of games, I just want to say, a lot of games do this. So a lot of pixel games that you see nowadays actually do something similar. They may not have the clean look that Octopath Traveler has, but this isn't the first game I've seen try to do this and do it well. So
yeah, I mean, it's certainly the first game I've seen that does it, because I just don't pay attention to games like these.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, for your benefit too. If you like this, there are plenty of games that do pretty much the same thing. So it's definitely worth looking into down the road if this is something that you genuinely have come to enjoy.
Yeah, and well, it's I mean, it's interesting because like I like how this is presented, but also the gameplay is, you know, South Park: The Stick of Truth and what was the other one? Fractured But Whole. They kind of got me interested more in the turn-based, and obviously Mario Rabbids obviously helped with that. But the combat system in this game is so good. I mean, it's so good. It's a turn-based, but it's very quick-paced combat, and there's tactics to it. It's a great little RPG, and I feel like this is like this. I'm only about 4 hours or so, 4.5 hours into this game, but I really feel like this is the RPG that the Switch needed. Not like it wasn't lacking in quality games, but I think this is just more icing on the Switch cake, because it feels so nice on the Switch, and it plays so well, and it's it's a fun game. And I honestly, I mean, Bradford, I really think you would like this game a lot.
I know
It's really good.
I know I will. I just don't have the ability to play it right now. So
Yeah, I wish, yeah, if only we could do Steam sharing with Switch.
I'll buy it eventually. But I've basically come to the realization that I'm not buying another game until I finish Persona 5.
Well, all right.
So
So, yeah, so basically, if you haven't played it, it is a JRPG. It's not like a JRPG. It is a JRPG. There's 8 playable characters that you can have in this game, and they each have their own perk. When this game they call it a talent. Some of them can be passive, some of them are active. So, for example, my main playable character, her name is Tressa, and she's a merchant. Her talent is called Eye for Money, and it's literally what I'm showing you right here. She randomly finds money that people just drop in the world, and no joke, my coin purse is just full of money that I have just found that people have just lost.
I mean, yeah, it's perfect for you.
This game basically made a character for me, and it's incredible, and she is like unquestionably the best character. Anyway, I mean, like, the game is great. It's a really it's another one of those Switch games which just proves to me why this console is so good. And I was talking with Mark earlier today, and this game still today is completely sold out on Amazon. It came out on Friday.
Yeah.
And it's still completely sold out, which is crazy.
Thank God for digital.
Yeah, and I'm wondering. Well, I got this at Best Buy. Using like Allison's Gamer Discount or whatever. So they had physical copies in like actual stores here, but Amazon looked like their stock was out. So I'm gonna be interested to see the sales numbers for this game, but it's really good. And if you guys are at all interested in them, definitely pick it up because it's awesome.
Yep.
And also Shadow. Well, I almost said Mordor. War. I'm gonna get these two mixed up a lot. But today they finally we talked about this in April, but today was the day that they dropped their microtransactions, and they also reworked the games to get rid of that grind, which necessitated the I mean, that grind was there literally for the microtransactions. So whenever you hear people say that they don't affect gameplay, they literally affect gameplay. Proof is in the patch that Monolith
put out today.
Basically reworking the entire game. You want more proof? Well, look at Battlefront 2 last year. When they removed the microtransactions, you know how unbalanced the game was? Yeah, because they affected gameplay. So there you go. But anyway, I just barely started that game. I got it for $17 on CD keys.
It's not a bad price.
It's not a bad price, and it's an incredible. I mean, it's PC gaming, guys. I'm getting a locked 60 frames per second. Even I think the benchmark is just not reliable because I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, because I benchmarked mine when it first came out, and I was getting. Now, mind you, I'm playing it on Windows 10, the UWP app, and this is before.
That's what you meant by Windows 10.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about?
So this was even before like they had opened up the API to things like Shadowplay and stuff. Yeah. So it very much could be different now, but like I was getting 35 to 40 FPS in the benchmark, but a lock 60 when I play. So
yeah, so I have no idea. I mean, I'm not going to complain too much, I guess, because I'd rather have a benchmark be conservative rather than optimistic.
Yeah.
So granted, I would expect to get nothing less than 60 frames per second at 4K given my hardware. But still, it's nice to see. I do have GPU overhead to spare, so it's if you played Shadow of Mordor, you're gonna be familiar with Shadow of War, War's mechanics. Visually, it basically looks like a slightly upgraded Shadow of Mordor. I mean, it compared to the other games released in 2017, which is when this released originally, it doesn't look like a 2017 game. It looks like a 2014 game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
I don't know. I Shadow of War is an interesting game for me because we all know that I'm a massive like Tolkien nerd, and so you make fun of me for this all the time. You know, I'm upset because this fictional thing doesn't match this other fictional thing. Shadow of War is basically like the ultimate example of me getting upset about that type of thing. The problem is Shadow of War is a fun video game until you get to that grind, So maybe with the grind basically being taken out of it now, it'll be more enjoyable for me to go back and play. It'll be one of those plays. It'll be one of those games that I go back and play and then never touch again, kind of like I did with Shadow of Mordor. I played through it, haven't been back since.
Yeah, and yeah, you should do the. You should go. The patch notes are quite extensive if you go
Yeah.
read the patch. But it's the latest patch is 1.18.
Yeah,
So
I opened up the game earlier today after you said you bought it, and I was getting like 1.026 or something like that. So I don't think it had fully updated. It said it was checking for updates, but then it just pushed me into the main game, and I could still see the storefront. That's what made me
Yeah.
think to ask you about
Yeah.
it. So
Windows Store. But yeah, no, this is one of those games that I bought because they fixed it. I always said that I'm not going to buy a game when it's got that crap in it. It now doesn't have the crap in it, and the entire gameplay has been reworked to
Or so
account
they
for
say.
that. Or so they say, yeah. So we got to go in there and play it. And it was $17. So this was a game that I'm buying now and then probably going to revisit. But that's
So-
that's it for my gameplay.
So how far are you in Final Fantasy 15 then?
Well, I mean, there's a difference, right? Because Final Fantasy 15 was a game that I said from day zero that I was going to buy because of the graphics, and I haven't progressed more than 3 hours of staring at rocks.
Yeah. I'm 3 hours into it, but that's just because I've been playing Persona 5. Speaking of games I've played this week, it hasn't been Persona 5. I've been playing Magic Arena again. They added it in Core 2019, the new set that released last week. After they finally let people back into their accounts who were accidentally locked out by the issue they were having. So they patched the game on Thursday. It was supposed to take 8 hours. It took 2, which was kind of cool. And then they gave everybody who was locked out of their account like 5,000 gold coins, which is the currency you earn while you play. And those coins can be used to either buy booster packs or to enter into competitions or competitive tournaments, so you can win more packs, more cards, and more coins. So it's pretty cool. And then they gave everybody like a ton of booster packs to open. So I've been kind of tinkering around with the deck that I have here on paper. I have a version of the deck that I use on paper in Magic Arena. And then I started tinkering around with a new deck that kind of takes advantage of the new cards that just came out. And I streamed a little bit last night, got my butt handed to me like most of the night. It was quite discerning. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Forests.
I don't play with green very often, man. I'm mainly playing blue, so I'm playing a lot of islands, which you did once. But no, I mainly play blue, black, and red. Usually those colors together. The deck I built last night with the new cards is just blue and black, with the splash of red when I need it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. They actually opened up the beta this week. They gave everybody who's in the beta 5 beta codes. So I've given 2 of them away. I have 3 extra in case anybody out there listening wants one. Just let me know, and if I have it, I'll send it to you on Twitter or something.
I'd take one if I did completely forget how to play Magic.
Well, the cool thing is that they actually just added in a tutorial as well. With the most recent patch, added this in preparation for this big beta event they're having this week, and they're trying to stress the servers as much as possible this weekend. That's why they're giving away all these beta codes. And you actually can get some exclusive cards you can't get anywhere else by going through the tutorial. So, you actually get, I think, 10 pre-constructed decks when you finish the tutorial. That way you have something you can play with to earn some money, to earn some packs, and start building from there. It'll be...
I've got a
go ahead.
question. When you buy actual Magic cards,
Mhm.
like when you go, so you can, I know you can buy individual cards.
Right.
Can you buy card packs?
Mhm.
And do they contain like random cards?
Yeah, so it's random.
So they're in real life loot boxes.
Yeah, and that's why when a lot of people were upset about the loot boxes, they pointed back to trading cards as like the ultimate example of a loot box, because you never know what you're going to get in one. And people were like, if you are upset about loot boxes in video games, be careful, because you may change this entire industry because it's the same principle. I think the difference here is, though, that everybody has the same odds of getting just completely random, and you're kind of going into it expecting this. And if you really want to, you could just buy the cards you need. In fact, it's cheaper in the long run just to buy the singles than it is to buy the booster packs. Booster packs aren't meant for building decks for tournaments. They're meant for drafts and sealed deck play. So if you're buying booster packs to build your deck, you're doing it wrong. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I guess in a sense they are real life loot boxes. Which again it's a comparison I made, as well as many other people. So
That's
other than that, I haven't really been playing much. I have Nier Automata I'm still working through. I've kind of hit a wall with that. I gotta hurry it up with that though, because I have to start playing some I gotta start playing some World of Warcraft to prep for Battle for Azeroth. So
Mark was telling me they got rid of the pricing, so they changed the pricing, so now all you have to do is you don't have to buy the game, you can just get everything through the subscription.
Yeah, well, so what they did is before, when you subscribed, you only had access to the base game, and you had to basically buy all the expansions. So now you get the subscription, you have everything except for Legion, I believe, or you may even have Legion. I don't even know.
Well, I don't know what's Legion.
Legion's the most recent one to release, not the one that's coming up. It's the one that released last year. So it may not include Legion. It may include Legion prepping for Battle for Azeroth. But basically, World of Warcraft decided to get with the times, because that's how it's been for most MMOs nowadays. ESO still doesn't do this, but whenever they release a new expansion, they release it, and you get the base game with it. So it's like you're buying the game anyway. You also don't have a required subscription fee with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say ESO is you buy to play it and then buy the expansions separately as, I guess, quote unquote traditional expansions. So I think it's a slightly different business model, but when Mark told me about the WoW shift in business model, I was like, that's actually kind of cool.
It is. Think about it. You got 14 years of gaming history to build upon and experience for $15 a month. Lord of the Rings Online does the same thing. You have to pay for Mordor. Otherwise, if you subscribe, you get all of the previously released stuff for free.
Yeah, and I guess it just gives you a better value proposition, honestly. Like, that's...
Yeah. Now, the downside is with games like ESO and Lord of the Rings Online, you don't have to pay to play the game. You can just pay as you want. So if you don't want the Anduin River expansion, you don't have to pay for it. You can just do, Rohan or whatever. With ESO, it's the same thing. If you don't want Somerset, cool. You can play the base game without having to pay anything other than just the fee to buy the game. With World of Warcraft, you still have that continual fee. So you can play for free up to level 20, but then after that you have to pay that continual $15 a month. And for many people, that's the only game they ever play, so it's fine. For me, I still prefer that buy-to-play model, where just let me buy the game. We just buy it, then we'll play it. If I want to give you more money for some perks, I'll do that. But I just want to play the game. There's my rant on subscription fees. Paying to play a game I've already paid for.
Yeah. So cool. Those are some of the games that we've played for. This is usually the time in the show where we ask our audio challenged colleague if Drive Club is working yet, but I think it's safe to say that Drive Club has never worked.
Nope.
So much so that I abandoned the game.
Yep.
And Brian had to level our Tawdry Balls Club all the way up to level 10 by himself.
Is that like the highest level you can get to?
I think it was at the time. Because
probably still is, because the game was broken.
Yep. So that's Drive Club.
We were going to implement level 11, but we had to fix the driving first.
Yep. So that's Drive Club's broken, guys.
Yep.
If you haven't figured it out by now,
we're sorry.
You
haven't been paying attention.
You haven't been paying attention. The game has been broken as long as Shadow of Mordor has been out.
The game has been broken for as long as Drive Club has been announced.
Yes.
Which was an even longer period.
So it was broken even in pre-production.
Yep.
So
it objectively didn't work as a complete game in pre-production.
It didn't work as a complete game even when it quote-unquote went gold either. So, so okay, we're moving on to the topic points. Bradford, you had one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Yelping and how it affects ethics in video game journalism. We're not.
I don't know what that... I was going to say, I have no idea what that means.
So, like, that whole episode of South Park where they're, like, making fun of Yelp reviewers because they hold, like, this supreme power, but yet, like, they have zero ethics. Yeah. It just made me think of, like, the gaming industry as a whole and how a lot of games journalists just don't understand ethics. There was something that happened this week that kind of made me think of this. It was Andrea Rene got hired on by Ubisoft to do the Crew 2 thing that's coming up. And it's like, oh, great, another studio, another publisher's games that whenever she talks about, I can't take her seriously. Or any of the other people who are associated with her, because she's now being paid by EA and Ubisoft to shill for their games. And I get it, she's a host, but she also has like that journalist side where she talks about games and gives her opinions on them. You know,
she's got the influencer side, which is basically, I mean, it's honestly
it's new age journalism.
Semantics. It's like, are you a journalist? No, I'm a YouTuber. Well, it's
okay. Kind of the same thing nowadays.
Same, exactly. Yeah, it's the
same
thing.
I would say you're more important because most people pay more attention to you than they do me.
Yeah, no, that's the whole thing. The whole new media, old media, like, it doesn't matter. Do you influence somebody's purchasing decision?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, then get smart.
So yeah, that's a good movie. So that's kind of what made me think of that. And then I watched that clip from South Park today when I sent it to you, and added yelping because I thought it was kind of funny. So yeah, interesting stuff. But this has some actual Todgy Paws applications here.
Yeah. So, all right. So there were some changes to the Overwatch. I mean, there's always changes to Overwatch because it's a live game, and this is just how live games work. But there was toxicity is a huge problem regardless of game. It is a problem.
Do you have internet? Toxicity is a problem.
Well, it doesn't even matter if you have internet. Is it a single player game? Oh, you're playing Skyrim wrong.
Do you exist in the world today? Toxicity is a problem.
Do you play a game?
No. Do you simply exist? Toxicity is a problem for you.
Yeah. So one of the ways that Jeff Kaplan and his crew over at Blizzard, they're obviously trying to combat this toxicity. So what they did was they introduced something called the endorsement system. And my personal opinion of the endorsement system, I'll get into how it works, but what we know so far, I'll talk about that because Blizzard infamously plays some of their reputation systems and mechanics behind that kind of close to their chest. But in my personal opinion, I think this is nothing short of genius. I really do like it, and not just because I think it's funny, but I think objectively it works. And I think it's just, I mean, it is such a great way to counter toxicity. I mean, it's brilliant. Genuinely, I think it's brilliant. So the way it works is this. And who wrote this? Cecilia. So I'm on Kotaku, but
Cecilia Di Anastasio.
Yeah, and I looked at this article because personally, like, she worded it brilliantly. She says, quote, "It's a masterstroke of features, all interacting to reward civility and cleanse the game of antisocial behavior." And it's so true. It really is. I mean, it is a masterstroke, but it's so simple at its heart. It's great. So, how does this work? What do we know about it, I guess, is the better way to approach this. So, effectively, there are 3 quote-unquote endorsements that you can provide other players except for your friends that you're grouped up with. So I can't endorse Bradford, he can't endorse me, but we can endorse our other teammates.
We can endorse Brian.
No, I can't.
That was supposed to be a joke. Just move on.
Oh, well, all right. But basically, you can endorse your non-grouped teammates on your friends, I guess. But anyway, there's 3 endorsements. There's shot caller, good teammate, and sportsmanship, and they each have their little descriptions underneath. But they made it simple. There's just 3 endorsements. You can provide up to 3 endorsements per match, and you can do it for your team and the other team, your opponents. And you can only endorse 1 player every 12 hours. So you can't...
3 players every 12 hours.
No, you can only... I'm literally reading it. It says you can only endorse a player every 12 hours.
Because I've been able to do it 3 times in a match. Are they specifically stating that specific player?
Yeah, they're saying you can give up to 3 endorsements per match. Okay. You can only endorse a player once per match. You can only endorse a player every 12 hours.
Well, all right.
And they also this is what I think is this is the master stroke. they gamified this whole thing because it's Blizzard, and of course they would. But it's so simple. I mean, they gamified the whole endorsement thing. There's something called an endorsement level. So, how do you raise your endorsement level? Well, all you do is the more endorsements you get, it all sort of adds up to your overall endorsement level. Now, how many endorsements you need to raise your level, I've trolled all over the forums. Trolled is a bad word, but you get what I'm saying. And I can't find any.
Here.
Yeah, I can't find any measure that says you need X amount of endorsements to level up. I can't find it. This is where Blizzard, I think, is playing close to their chest. But basically, the more endorsements you get, the higher your endorsement level goes. And around each endorsement level, you'll see this ring of 3 colors. These 3 colors correspond to the 3 different types of endorsements. So they can see like, oh, hey, you have more green, so that means you got more sportsmanship endorsements than the other 2. Now this level, your endorsement level, it can go up, but it can also go down, which is interesting. So if you keep getting endorsements, your endorsement level goes up. But you can also, from what I've read, you can also lose that level if you, like, for example, quit a match mid-match. The system, I believe, takes that into account, and it will adversely affect your endorsement level. So this is pretty much kind of like the way that the endorsement level sort of works. And what I have noticed, so I'm going to talk about anecdotally and then the actual numbers that Blizzard has. So anecdotally, what have I seen? Anecdotally, Brian and I'm going to say it up front, there's no shame in this. We're farming endorsements. Like, purely we're farming endorsements. But what does this mean? If you actually think about this, what does this actually mean? You might say like, oh man, you're manipulating the system. Okay, I'm manipulating the system by being nice? Okay.
Right, but just fake nice. Like, give me some genuine nicety.
Yeah. Is that the question? I think the bigger question, and what I find fascinating is that, like, obviously there is a way to manipulate this, right? But if you're being nice and you make it, if you word it in a certain way where people can't tell that you're being kind of quote unquote fake nice just to get more endorsements, the question is, does that matter?
Right.
Because ultimately, you're basically getting upset at someone for being fake nice to you, as opposed to what? Calling you an asshole and just being toxic to you? Like, is that really what you're upset about? No, this is where I keep saying, like, you gotta, there's critical thinking involved here. This, I think, is a great system, because Blizzard has basically made a system where if you play by the rules and you are genuine in your praise and just being a nice person, you will be rewarded for it. If you manipulate the system, what does that mean? Well, you're manipulating it, but really Blizzard is still winning because you're being a nicer person. Even if you are not quote unquote sincere, what other people see are nice comments from you, and they're not seeing toxicity, which is great. It's genius. This is something that I think is great, because the fact that they've gamified it has incentivized people to be nice, whether that be genuine or not. And just anecdotally, I have seen players online, and again, who knows if they're being sincere or if they're like me and Brian and we're just joking around. But either way, I have noticed a noticeable uptick in player attitude. People are much more helpful. They're nicer. They actually, like,
they're
if
more
I say,
vocal now too.
They're much more vocal. They chat a lot more. I have voice chat shut off, but the in-game text chat is very much on. And I'm seeing people utilize that a lot more. And, at the end of the match, when I genuinely say, when I'm not even being like, like just joking around Shank, but when I genuinely say, like, that was a great match, people respond and be like, yeah, no, that was great. That was awesome. Like, you guys did a good job. So I'm noticing an uptick in positivity, which is great. I think that's awesome. And the genius is that they've gamified the whole thing, which is awesome. That was the anecdotal piece, right? here's the objective measurements here. This is on the Blizzard forums, and Jeff Kaplan. I love how like humble this is. His title on the forums is Overwatch developer. That is underselling himself so much. So, what does he say here regarding their findings? These are of 6 days ago, so it's about a week old. No doubt that these numbers have changed since then, but this is kind of what we've got so far. He says, quote, our global insights group just finished parsing some stats as it relates to LFG, looking for group, and endorsements. Post-release of endorsements and looking for group, the percentage of competitive matches that contain abusive chat is down 26% in the Americas, 16% in Korea. The percentage of daily players being abusive is down 28% in America, 21% in Korea. We're really pleased with the community's efforts to make Overwatch a better place. Thank you all, and we'll keep working on iterating these features to make them better, as well as exploring other systems to improve the gameplay environment. Now, obviously, me being me, I have to ask, well, he's saying that the number of matches that contain abusive chat. Okay, how do you define what is abusive chat? I mean, there's that. You obviously need to establish some criteria around what you classify as abusive chat.
Right.
But I think, in general, the takeaway here is that it's down a quarter, which is great. And again, the best part about this is, even if you're cheesing the system, you're playing into Blizzard's hand by just being nice.
Right.
So before I get to the next kind of part of this, what have you noticed? Any thoughts on the system?
A lot less mud dicks being thrown around. Like, that used to be the highlight of Overwatch, is you coming up with some random super nice thing and then Brian just throwing down my dick. And then the reaction in our own personal Discord. It's fine. I mean, it's cool. Anything to help the community get better. I think it's sad that we need a system like this just for people to be nice. But yeah, it's the world we live in. I mean, you deal with garbage every day. People deal with garbage every day. It's good that we can play a video game and not deal with that garbage as much. Since this has happened, I don't think I've seen any abusive stuff, with the exception of me or you or Brian saying my dick every once in a while. I don't know. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. If it helps make the community better, that's fine. The problem that I see is it doesn't stop professionals and streamers from being garbage and saying garbage things to their audience and stuff like that. Which that's really going to be the litmus test, I guess, in terms of how Blizzard polices the ambassadors of their game versus simply just the regular players. And I get it. Our interactions are all purely based with these regular players. But when you have high-level Overwatch players saying, homophobic slurs and stuff like that, this endorsement system seems kind of meaningless when you have the people who represent your game the most at the highest levels not even following something like this. So it'll be interesting to see how Blizzard approaches and deals with that moving forward, because it's still happening. It's not happening as much as it used to, but it's still happening. It still makes the news every once in a while.
Yeah, and to that point, when you're talking about streamers, like, there's really two things there, right? It's not just Blizzard, but it's also, for example, the platform they're streaming on. Mm-hmm. So if we're assuming, like, just for sake of argument, they're streaming Overwatch on Twitch. So at that point, it's obviously just don't be a dick and say racist, homophobic things. That's kind of common sense, people. But this being the real world, if the streamer does say something like that, my genuine question is first of all, I think it's a blight on all three parties. The streamer, very obviously, but also the streaming platform and the game itself. Because, like you said, you're basically an ambassador for that game, and what if you're a Twitch partner? Well, then you're technically some sort of representative, or you're representing Twitch to some degree.
Right.
So, I think the onus is first and foremost on the individual. I think that's just common sense. But at that point, it's how do you make tools on the streaming platform itself, whether it be YouTube or Twitch, to combat these kind of things and reduce them, and also from the game side. So basically, what I'm saying is that I think it needs to be a multi-front effort. It's
No,
not just a one thing.
and you're not wrong. It's just when Blizzard starts touting how daily abusiveness has gone down, but then you have the major parties who promote the game and are seen as the ambassadors of the game, not really like participating, or not being held to that same or not being held to the same standard. For me though, like I don't know what Twitch or Mixer or Periscope or whatever platform. Facebook is making a concerted push about getting high-level streamers onto their platform now too. I don't know what their terms and conditions are, whether or not they can truly control what you say on their stream. They can. Obviously, it's a private company. Yeah, Twitch is private. It's a privately held company. They have every right to boot somebody off if they don't agree with what's being said. But there's no precedent that they'll do that because awful things have been said on Twitch before, and those streamers still rake in thousands and thousands of dollars because at the end of the day, Twitch benefits from those dollars. So, yeah, the onus is on the streamer for not saying garbage stuff. It's on Twitch or whatever platform that the stream is being held on, but it's also on Overwatch and Blizzard to hold the people who are brand ambassadors to to the highest standard, because at the end of the day, it's their game. Nobody's thinking about this was seen on Twitch. They're thinking about they're playing Overwatch.
Yeah, it's not about oh, I saw this on Twitch. It's I saw this person saying this thing
while doing this thing.
Yeah. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So in my mind, the onus is on Blizzard in making sure that the people who are representing their brand, whether it's in the Overwatch League, which then you add the extra element of, can the Overwatch League police what people who are contracted by other companies to play your game say? Because then you have the added layer of team and the management the team has and the legal teams these esports teams employ.
Yeah, and then I think, I mean, and if you zoom out even a little bit further, which I think is relevant here, is when you're talking about these teams, you're talking about esports, right? And these kind of things do nothing but delegitimize esports as a whole, and people just don't take them seriously.
The sad part is the esports players are put under the microscope because everything they say is more scrutinized and easily seen, as opposed to the NFL player who says it on the football field underneath the helmet.
Yeah.
So I mean, these types of things being said by an esports player aren't exclusive to esports players. They just happen to have microphones in front of their face most of the time.
And cameras, honestly, in the terms of
cameras, yeah.
H1,
yeah, but
H1
I mean, I guarantee, like Kevin Garnett from the NBA has notoriously been known for saying some garbage fire things just to rile up his opponents. I mean, and he's a Hall of Fame potential basketball player.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that's sad. Yeah, we need to, and it doesn't excuse what these esports players say, but it's like we hold them to such a high standard when we have like literal athlete gods saying worse things, and it's not even being talked about.
Yeah.
Or it's being passed off as locker room talk. So, and this really has nothing to do with the endorsements themselves, because again, the endorsements have been bringing down the overall toxicity in the game, but it means less in my mind when you still have this going on and Blizzard doesn't have an answer for it. So
yeah, and the endorsement system, the way that I look at it, and I'm sure this is the way that Blizzard looks at it, is this is basically a step one in a much longer effort to reduce toxicity, because toxicity is a persistent problem. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's just going to get reduced. I don't think something like that can ever permanently disappear. It's just how much can we reduce it by? So it's basically that factor by how much can you reduce it. And I think this endorsement system, and I'm positive Jeff Kaplan and his team see it the same way, is that this is a very much a first step in a multi-phased effort that they're going to be rolling out, testing it, and hopefully, in a year's time, I'm going to be very curious to see what the system they have in place is, how similar or dissimilar it is to this one, and the numbers that we're seeing, from compared to day one, this is how much abusive behavior has gone down or gone up, who knows. So like I said, this is a day one thing, but what I think is, in the short term, I think this is great to see.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. It's definitely a step in the right direction.
And what I really like is this, and this is this is on the Overwatch forums, not forums. Wow, the Reddits, the Overwatch subreddit, and there's an individual basically kind of complaining
You're doing these out
about
of order.
what?
You're doing these out of order. The Reddit one was second, I thought. Anyways, go on. Move on.
Whatever. I don't even have my show notes in front of me. I just have my links.
Yeah, no worries.
But there's where is it? There we go. I clicked on the wrong tab. Here we go. So this is on the forum. So yeah, this is on the forum. Where we've got some dude basically complaining about the endorsement system. And it's interesting in the way that his worry about the endorsement system, I think, is misplaced. And I'll read what he's saying. He's saying, quote, "In all seriousness, I really want them to remove endorsements, and hear me out. I understand the reasoning for them. It promotes positive behavior, and that's great. But there's one major flaw to it that ruins LFG in a way. It's that people are farming endorsements. When you finish a game, even if you won and you just played really well together, people will leave the match because they have received endorsements, and they will then group up with different people, so then they can get more endorsements. It then forces me to re-queue after every match. It's annoying. Also, please don't add rewards for endorsements because then it will only get worse." So a couple of things here that I think are being overlooked and generalized. When people finish a game, like for example, like we might play with like 4 people, and a full squad is technically 6 people.
6, yeah.
But we might leave not because we want endorsements, but maybe because we just don't want to play with these same people anymore, because we had a bad team compilation and we just want to go find a different team. That's a reason why people might leave. It's not. So I think there's a generalization that he's making here, is that people are leaving because they want to go keep farming endorsements. While
Right.
that may not be untrue, that's not the whole story, and I think that's something crucial to point out. But more importantly, I think, is that his real issue, if you actually look at this, right, because his real issue is he's being forced to re-queue after every match. So then the real crux of the problem isn't the endorsement system, it's the matchmaking system. And Blizzard's matchmaking, I have to say, I mean, it's terrible. I don't understand, with 40 million plus people playing, how it takes so long to find a match. And this was an issue, I should say, before the endorsement system.
Right.
Now, the endorsement system might have made it worse, but that doesn't mean it was good to begin with. And I think that's what he's overlooking here, is that his being forced to re-queue after every match isn't necessarily an issue with the endorsements. It's really a problem with the matchmaking system at large. And I have plenty of issues with the matchmaking system, but I think that's what he's really angry about and is really kind of missing out on. His final piece, where he's saying don't add rewards for endorsements, but you see, I think that's kind of missing the point as well, because that's the gamification of the endorsements, and that's the genius of the endorsement system, is because even if you're sincere, it only adds more positive behavior in the community.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if you're insincere and are just there to farm endorsements, the net result of you kind of manipulating the system is still net positive communication in the community. So it still benefits the community over large, regardless of your personal motivation. The net result, the absolute value, if you will, is that you're going to see net positive behavior in the community, and ultimately that's a good thing. And just like kind of we've said, anecdotally, I have seen less, I've seen basically less toxicity in the last couple of weeks that this has been out in the wild, and objectively we can measure the same thing. So the gamification thing, that's the real genius behind the endorsement system. So it's to answer the question, does it really matter? Does farming endorsements really matter? I think the answer, in my opinion, is no. And objectively, with Jeff Kaplan's numbers, the answer is also no.
Yeah.
I just think it's it's genius. I love.
You know what? It works. It
works.
Obviously is working. And again, the motivation behind it is irrelevant. The end result is a quality system. Now, my fear is if somebody is only only being nice to farm endorsements, what happens when they stop getting endorsements? Are they just going to go back to being a dick?
No, if they start getting endorsements, my next question is there a obviously there's a reward. You know, there's a tangible reward
what I
if
mean
you're
is,
being nice.
what happens if they stop?
No, that's
getting
what
it?
I'm saying.
Yeah.
So right now we know that if you are positive, you get awarded for it. I'm wondering in the endorsement system if you start or if you start acting abusive, is there some sort of like intelligence built into the system that it like can pick up on key phrases and then downgrade your endorsement level? Or can Blizzard, you know, like I'm wondering if there's basically a punishment is what I'm saying for
We don't
this.
know.
So
We don't know.
yeah, because if somebody starts being like, I'm sick of this, I'm not getting any better, and just starts being a dick,
Mm-hmm.
is there a punishment system in there? And I would think that there is. What it is, though, I don't know. But one would hope that Blizzard would have accounted for that. But I don't know, man. I think when you're dealing with toxicity, in my personal opinion, the carrot is way more powerful than the stick.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have numbers to prove it. So if people start becoming, getting sick of it, I think Blizzard are smart enough, and they have enough people behind the scenes working on this enough to say, okay, so that carrot's not working. Okay, what about this carrot? And basically come up with a new system, or they tweak the existing system a little bit, to appease those kind of people, because ultimately this is a gamification.
Mm-hmm.
And if you appease the people that, that's the game for them is to game the systems. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like I said, I think I'm curious to see what this is going to look like even in 6 months time, like at the end of 2018, and see what Jeff Kaplan has to report on the numbers. But it's an interesting system. I'm glad it exists, and honestly, it's making the game better for me. It really is. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. That's all we got. So let's go ahead and close out the show. What we're working on and how to reach these kids. You guys, Shake, what are you working on?
I am working on recruiting my third party member in Octopath Traveler.
Okay. Sounds like you're having a fun time.
I am, because my coin purse is like, I started today with a coin purse of 2,000 gold. I now have 6,000 gold.
So your coin purse is realistic.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know what I'm working on that Nier Automata review, which I gotta finish this week. I was trying to have it finished by last week, and I hit a wall in the game. This is not a stirring endorsement. The game is fun, but I'm at this part where I'm just kind of beating my head against the wall. So I gotta finish it because I need to start working on World of Warcraft for IGN for next month. Other than that, I don't have anything that I'm really working on. I play more Magic because that's always fun. So you can follow us on Twitter at GTI Podcast. You can follow Brian at SilentFury007. You can follow myself at LOTLord. You can follow Shank at Shank the Tink. What are we streaming this week? Have we decided that yet?
Oh, I don't think we've decided what we're streaming this week.
You know what? We have enough money. We should do the GTA heist if we can. If everybody's available. Even if it means we have to push the stream back so Brian can be on. We should do that.
No, but Brian's family's gone, remember? So he has all the time in the world. He's basically me.
Brian is a bachelor right now. In every sense except for the monogamous one. Okay, yeah, we should do that because we've been trying to do that heist for a while.
Yeah, Brian. Whenever you listen to this, probably tomorrow, we're doing the heist.
Yeah,
we're gonna get a text tomorrow at like 11 p.m. Be like, guys, okay, we're gonna do the heist.
He's not gonna listen to this till Friday. Yeah, so we'll do GTA on Saturday, and if that doesn't work out, maybe we'll farm more endorsements. Who knows?
Yeah. Could we just really quickly? Can you just look at Yayep's comment in chat real quick?
Just look at Yayep real quick. It cracks me up that Shank is stupid rich in Octopath Traveler as well. Yeah. No, so when you sent that picture out, I think people thought I missed the fact that you were representing a rich character in that. I was more so shocked that you were playing Octopath Traveler. I don't know. I will definitely be getting that game once I'm done with Persona. The problem is I don't know if I want to do two JRPGs back to back, and I am finishing freaking Persona. That game is phenomenal and it deserves to be played.
I mean, it's objectively shit. I'm sure if you wrote Jeff Kaplan, he would give that game like -16 endorsements.
It's a great thing I don't base my game purchases and enjoyment off of Jeff Kaplan's stirring endorsements. Speaking of things that get stirringly endorsed, you can visit us at gameintheindustry.com for not editorials live video. This is your part.
Yep. I was just gonna let you. Yeah, you visit us at gamingtheindustry.com for an RSS feed of the show, and that's basically it. We're on iTunes. Stitcher
You can
Radio.
reread Brian's great
Bio. Yep, Horatio.
Forgot that. I can't believe that's still a thing that's on the internet.
Yep. We're on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and wherever else you can get podcasts. That's half
Google
of
Play.
that's a lie. You can join us every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for new episodes on youtube.com/shankthtank. This is also where the video on demand version is going to be, just under the Gaming the Industry playlist. And apparently you're streaming this as well to your
Yeah,
other stuff.
I have it streamed right now to Twitch, Mixer, and my Periscope, and I think even my YouTube. So if you liked being able to go to more places to see, everyone seems to be watching it on your YouTube, so this may be a one-time thing. But let me know. I don't have a problem doing it if it means more people watch the show and waste their lives. So
Excellent. Well, cool, guys. That's it. I guess we can say our goodbyes.
namarie.
Namari shitasimasu.
Freaking A, man.